So I want you to imagine you are a student pilot. Like you've just strapped into the left seat of a training plane for the very first time.
Oh, man. Best feeling in the world.
Right. You push the throttle forward, you take off, and you're climbing into the sky.
Yeah.
The engine is roaring, the wind is rushing past the canopy, everything feels just incredible. And then,
Right.
exactly, bam, you fly straight into this massive, blinding white cloud. Instantly, the ground just
The
vanishes.
sky vanishes too.
Yeah, there is no horizon. There's just pure, disorienting, milky white in literally every direction.
And, the human body is entirely unequipped for this environment.
Yeah.
Like, without a visual reference, your brain just hits the panic button.
It really does.
The fluid in your inner ear, the stuff that usually tells you which way is up and starts playing these wild tricks on you, it basically invents a false reality.
Which is terrifying.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You might swear you are flying perfectly straight when in reality, you're in a steep dive right toward the ground.
Yeah, spatial disorientation. It is no joke. And to survive that blinding white cloud, we are doing a deep dive today into the official flight training manuals, including the FAA's Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge.
The holy grail for student pilots.
Exactly. Our mission today is to uncover this ultimate aviation superpower, which is the ability to fly entirely blind without losing your sense of up and down.
It really is a superpower.
We're basically going to treat your cockpit like a real-life video game HUD, a heads-up display, and break down the crazy physics powering it.
And, the secret weapon behind this entire superpower, it isn't some advanced computer chip or like a magical anti-gravity device.
Right.
It is literally a tiny, heavy metal wheel spinning thousands of times a minute inside your dashboard. The gyroscope.
A magic spinner.
Yeah.
But okay, before we can actually read that video game HUD, we have to unpack the weird kind of rule-breaking physics happening behind the glass. Like, what is actually going on inside that dashboard?
Well, at its core, an aircraft gyroscope is just a rotor, a really high-density wheel mounted on very low-friction bearings. And the whole goal is to get this heavy wheel spinning at incredibly high speeds.
Right. And in modern commercial jets, I know those might be electrically powered, but in standard training aircraft, it's actually super mechanical, right?
Yeah, usually it relies on a vacuum pump.
Driven directly by the airplane's engine. So the engine is actually powering a pump that literally sucks air out of the instrument case on the dashboard.
Exactly.
And that suction draws this high-speed stream of air over these tiny little buckets or veins cut right into the side of the rotor, basically spinning it up like a high-pressure water wheel.
That's a great way to picture it. And the manuals specify it requires a very precise amount of suction to operate properly. Usually it's between 4.5 and 5.5 inches of mercury.
Okay, so it's spinning super fast under this very specific pressure. Then what?
Well, when that heavy metal rotor gets fully up to speed, the physics fundamentally change. The wheel develops this property called rigidity in space.
Right, and the sources actually use a perfect everyday analogy for this, which is riding a bicycle.
Oh, yeah. The bike analogy is classic.
Right, like if you try to balance on a bike while barely moving, the front wheel is just completely wobbly, you turn it super easily, and you're fighting the whole time to keep your balance.
But once you pedal down a steep hill,
And get some serious speed, those wheels totally transform, they resist turning, they become incredibly stable, and they want to stay upright, locked in their exact plane of rotation.
exactly. The spinning mass basically hates being pushed around.
Mhm.
So now, apply that to the aircraft dashboard.
Okay.
The high-speed rotor is mounted inside a set of gimbal rings. Think of gimbals as like pivoting metallic frames that allow the wheel to rotate freely in any direction.
Right.
Because of rigidity in space, if you tilt or twist the frame holding the wheel itself refuses to move. It stays perfectly locked in its original spinning plane.
Wait, okay, let me visualize this. So, because of rigidity in space, the tiny wheel inside the dashboard isn't moving with the airplane?
Yep.
When I bank my training plane hard to the left, my thousands of pounds of aircraft is literally rotating around this tiny stationary spinning wheel.
Yes. The wheel remains fixed relative to the universe itself, and your airplane just pivots around it.
That is insane.
It is. And by mechanically linking those pivoting gimbals to a display on your dashboard, the instrument can instantly show you exactly how the airplane has moved relative to that frozen wheel.
That is completely mind-bending. But the training manuals bring up a second core principle, and it honestly sounds totally counterintuitive: gyroscopic precession.
Ah, precession. Yeah, this dictates how a gyroscope reacts when a deflecting force actually manages to overcome that rigidity we just talked about.
Right, so if you apply a physical force to try and tilt the spinning wheel, the reaction to that force, it doesn't happen where you pushed it.
Exactly. It doesn't happen there at all.
So if I reach out and push on the very top of the spinning wheel, the top doesn't tilt away from me. The reaction happens exactly 90 degrees later in the direction of rotation.
Yeah.
How is that physically possible?
Well, imagine pushing a kid on a playground merry-go-round, right? One that is spinning incredibly fast.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you shove one side of the metal frame, by the time your physical shove transfers its energy into the heavy metal, that specific part of the metal has already rotated 90 degrees away from you.
Oh, wow. So the tilt finally manifests a quarter turn later.
Exactly. And in flight instruments, this bizarre 90-degree pushback is incredibly useful. The instrument harnesses that sideways force, pushes it against the calibrated spring, and uses that pressure to physically turn a gear.
And that gear moves a needle on your dashboard to show you the exact rate of your turn.
You got it.
Okay, the physics are wild, but let's translate this into the cockpit for everyone listening. Let's look at the big three gyroscopic instruments, your video game HUD.
The HUD. Love that.
We have to start with the biggest one, sitting dead center right in front of the pilot, the attitude indicator, the artificial horizon.
Yeah, if you were ever trapped in that blinding white cloud, this is your ultimate survival tool, no question.
And the gyro inside the attitude indicator is mounted horizontally, right? Like it spins flat, parallel to the ground.
Exactly. Because of rigidity in space, that gyro stays flat to the true horizon no matter what the airplane does.
And attached to that gyro is this background card displaying blue for the sky and brown for the ground, separated by a white horizon line.
Right, and overlaid on top of that is a fixed miniature airplane symbol, which represents you.
So when you pull back on the yoke to climb, the nose of your real airplane pitches up. The instrument case pitches up around the rigid, flat gyro.
And on your display, the miniature airplane symbol moves up into the blue sky section of the card. It instantaneously senses both pitch, nose up or down, and bank wing up or down.
It literally keeps you from flying upside down.
Yeah.
There's no math or calculation required. You just look at the little airplane and make sure it's in the blue.
Keep the blue side up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But right below it is the second major tool, the heading indicator, or directional gyro. Now, this one has its gyro spinning vertically, kind of like a Ferris wheel, and it gives you your compass heading. But hold on, if I'm building an airplane, why am I adding a complicated vacuum-powered Ferris wheel just to tell me which way is north?
Good question.
Every plane already has a standard fluid-filled magnetic compass sitting right up on the windshield.
Yeah, but a magnetic compass is notoriously unreliable in a dynamic environment like an airplane.
Why is that?
Well, a compass relies on a magnetized needle trying to align with the Earth's magnetic lines of flux. And we tend to think of these lines as flat roads pointing north and south.
Right, like a map.
But those magnetic lines actually curve downward into the Earth when you get near the poles.
So the magnetic field isn't just pulling the needle horizontally toward the North Pole, it's actually dragging the compass needle downward into the floor of the airplane.
Exactly. This creates a phenomenon called magnetic dip. When you're flying perfectly flat and steady, the compass is balanced.
Yeah.
But the moment you bank the airplane to turn, or even just rapidly accelerate or decelerate, the physical compass card tilts. That downward magnetic pull yanks on the unbalanced card, causing it to swing wildly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you turn from a northern heading, the compass will actually lag behind you, or briefly indicate a turn in the complete opposite direction.
Wait, so if I'm flying blind in a cloud and my compass tells me I'm turning right when I'm actually turning left, I mean, that is a recipe for disaster.
It's deadly. And that's exactly what the heading indicator solves.
Yeah.
Because it relies on rigidity in space, it completely ignores the Earth's magnetic field.
It doesn't care if you're accelerating, decelerating, or banking sharply.
Not at all. The compass card on the dashboard is geared directly to the rigid gyro, giving you a rock-solid, stable heading without all that crazy bouncing.
Which brings us to the third essential instrument on the HUD, the turn coordinator.
This one is absolutely brilliant.
It really is. The turn coordinator's internal gyro isn't mounted perfectly flat or perfectly vertical. Its gimbal is canted, or angled upward, at exactly 30 degrees.
And that 30-degree tilt is everything, because it allows the gyro to sense motion on two separate axes simultaneously.
Right.
It senses roll, like when your wings dip left or right, and it also senses yaw when the nose of the plane swings left or right.
Its primary job is to help the pilot maintain a standard rate turn, which is precisely 3 degrees of turn per second, right?
Exactly. If you hold that exact rate, It takes exactly 2 minutes to complete a full 360-degree circle.
Hmm.
It is a true mathematical precision tool for navigating without seeing the ground.
But the best part of the turn coordinator has to be the inclinometer sitting right at the bottom.
Oh, the ball.
The
Yes.
inclinometer is this curved glass tube filled with fluid, and it has a small, free-rolling black ball inside. It measures the relationship between gravity and centrifugal force.
Basically.
So if you are listening to this in your car right now, think about taking a sharp exit ramp off the highway. If you take the corner way too fast, the centrifugal force pushes your body hard to the outside, pitting you against the car door.
You're drifting.
Exactly, you are drifting. In an airplane, if you mess up the physics of a turn, you start drifting through the sky.
And the ball shows you that. If you initiate a turn but don't use enough rudder pedal, the airplane slips toward the inside of the turn, and gravity pulls that little black ball to the inside of the glass tube.
And if you use too much rudder,
The airplane skids toward the outside of the turn, and centrifugal force flings the ball to the outside of the tube.
so the golden rule, which is drilled into every single student pilot's head, is step on the ball.
Step on the ball. Always.
If the ball is flaying out to the right side of the tube, you literally step on the right rudder pedal to force it back to the center. Keep the ball centered, and your turn is perfectly coordinated.
Meaning you are carving a clean, aerodynamic line through the air. No slipping, no sliding.
Okay, so the HUD sounds invincible. We've got an artificial horizon keeping us upright, a rock-solid compass, and a ball preventing us from skidding.
It's a great setup.
But, and this is a big but, this entire system has a fatal flaw. We need to talk about the kryptonite, because as amazing as these instruments are, they can actively lie to you.
And if you aren't paying attention, they will literally guide you right into the ground.
Yeah. The biggest vulnerability for the attitude and heading indicators lies in their power source, right?
Yep. The tiny vacuum pump attached to the engine, what happens when a mechanical part inevitably breaks?
Right, like a drive belt snaps, the pump shatters, and suddenly all suction drops to zero. Does the dashboard just like throw up a massive red error screen like a modern computer?
I wish, but rarely.
Hmm.
Unless your specific aircraft is equipped with a low vacuum warning flag, the pilot might not notice anything is wrong at first.
Why not?
Because the gyro is a heavy metal wheel spinning at high speed, so it has a massive amount of inertia. When the vacuum fails, the wheel doesn't just stop instantly. It slowly spools down.
And as it loses its high-speed rotation, it loses its rigidity in space.
Right.
The training manuals use a really terrifying word for this. They say it becomes lazy.
A lazy gyro. It slowly starts drooping. So your artificial horizon might gradually tilt to the right, indicating a gentle right bank, even though your airplane is actually flying perfectly straight and level.
Okay, put yourself back in that blinding white cloud. You have no visual horizon outside. Your lazy attitude indicator shows you banking to the right.
So your absolute instinct as a pilot is to fix it by turning the yoke to the left.
But since the instrument was lying, your correction just rolled the airplane into an actual dangerous left dive.
Exactly. You are fighting an illusion, and in doing so, creating a real emergency. A pilot reacting to a dying gyro is one of the most dangerous scenarios in instrument flying.
That is terrifying. But even if the vacuum pump is working flawlessly, there's another form of kryptonite baked right into the physics, isn't there?
Oh yeah, gyroscopic drift.
The heading indicator slowly drifting out of alignment. And part of this is just due to internal friction in the bearings. No mechanical system is perfectly frictionless, so over time, the wheel slowly drifts.
Right, that's the mechanical side.
But the other reason for this drift completely blew my mind when I read the notes.
You're talking about the literal rotation of the planet.
Yes, the gyro is rigid in space. Space, like it is locked to the distant universe, not to the ground.
It's credible to think about.
The Earth is rotating at a rate of roughly 15 degrees every hour. So if your gyro stays perfectly locked in its spinning plane, the Earth is quite literally turning underneath your airplane.
Yeah. By combining bearing friction with the Earth's rotation, your heading indicator can drift up to 15 degrees every single hour. It just slowly gets completely out of sync with reality.
But hold on, if the Earth is spinning under me and my compass is lying by 15 degrees, what do I do? Like, I can't just do mental math and fly 15 degrees sideways to get home.
Well, that introduces the pilot's responsibility to intervene, which we'll get to in a second.
Okay.
But there is a third really violent vulnerability we have to cover first.
Stumbling.
Mechanical limits, known as tumbling.
Right. If I take a standard Cessna training plane into a cloud and try to pull off some crazy stunt like a super steep bank or an extreme pitch, up the gimbals actually run out of room to pivot.
Exactly. The metallic gimbal rings have physical stops. They can only rotate so far before they just hit a metal wall.
And if you exceed the specific pitch and bank limits designed into the instrument, the rigid gyro violently smashes into those mechanical stops.
The dashboard literally throws a tantrum. The force violently displaces the gyro from its plane of rotation. It tumbles.
So the horizon bar on the display will wildly flip upside down and just spin in circles, making the instrument totally useless.
Pretty much. You have to wait for the internal self-erecting mechanisms to slowly right the gyro again. And that's assuming the violent impact didn't just shatter the bearings entirely.
Wow.
This is exactly why pilots must respect the mechanical limits of their gear. You are not flying an F-16 fighter jet. You are in an instrument trainer.
No impromptu aerobatics in the clouds. Got it. So knowing that the instruments can lose vacuum power, drift 15 degrees an hour, or violently tumble if you push them too hard, we need an action plan.
Definitely.
How does a student pilot actually outsmart their own dashboard?
Well, defeating that 15-degree drift requires a really simple manual maintenance routine. It's known as the 15-minute rule.
Because you definitely don't want to wait a full hour to find out you've been flying 15 degrees in the wrong direction.
Right. So during stable, straight and level flight, when that bouncy magnetic compass is finally resting perfectly still, the pilot looks up, reads the true magnetic heading, and then reaches down to a small calibration knob on the heading indicator.
And they just manually twist the gyro's display to match the compass.
Exactly.
So you basically use the magnetic compass when the air is calm to calibrate the gyro, so you can rely purely on the gyro when you actually need to turn or when the air gets turbulent.
It's brilliant teamwork between the two instruments.
It really is. But what about spotting a vacuum failure before it sends you into a death spiral?
Catching a failure actually starts on the ground. A skilled pilot uses their ears. As you start the engine and the vacuum pump engages, you actively listen to the gyros spooling up inside the dashboard.
Ooh, interesting. What are you listening for?
Well, a feeling bearing often produces a high-pitched whine, or like a grinding sound. You also meticulously check the vacuum pressure gauge, making sure the needle sits firmly in the green arc between that 4.5 and 5.5 inches of mercury we talked about.
And there's also a specific routine you do while you're just driving the airplane around the parking lot, right? Before you ever hit the runway. The taxi check.
Oh yeah, the taxi check is crucial. As you taxi the aircraft to the runway, you perform a series of gentle turns on the pavement. During a right turn, you look down at the turn coordinator.
And the miniature airplane should bank to the right, proving the gyro actually senses the yaw.
Exactly. And simultaneously, centrifugal force should fling the little black inclinometer ball to the left to the outside of the turn.
So you're basically proving the mechanical HUD is completely awake and responding correctly before you ever trust your life to it in the air.
That's the idea.
I think the absolute golden rule for you, the listener, right here is trust your instruments, but verify they're actually working.
Trust, but verify. Always.
It's exactly like playing a multiplayer game. Like, you trust your teammate to watch your back, but you still glance at the minimap to make sure they haven't disconnected.
That is a perfect analogy. A true instrument pilot constantly scans multiple data points. You don't just stare blankly at the attitude indicator.
Right, you cross-check it.
Yep, you cross-check it against the airspeed indicator, the altimeter, and the vacuum gauge. If your artificial horizon shows you in steep dive, but your altimeter shows your height isn't changing at all and your airspeed is perfectly stable.
You instantly know the gyro is lying to you.
Exactly. Cross-checking synthesizes all that data into a true mental picture of reality.
And for all the future aviators listening right now, mastering these rapidly spinning metal wheels, that is the barrier between being a passenger and becoming a true pilot. Understanding the intense physics behind your dashboard means you don't just know what the plane is doing, you know exactly why the instruments are telling you that.
And, as we look toward the future of aviation, it leaves us with this really incredible concept to explore. What happens when engineers decide to get rid of the spinning metal wheels entirely?
Wait, like getting rid of the vacuum pumps completely?
Oh, the transition is already happening. Modern aircraft are upgrading to glass cockpits powered by AHRS, which stands for Attitude and Heading Reference Systems.
Okay, so what's inside an AHRS?
Well, instead of heavy, vacuum-powered brass wheels spinning on bearings, these systems use solid-state technology. They rely on microscopic vibrating elements, lasers, and magnetometers.
Lasers replacing spinning wheels.
Yeah, microscopic ring laser gyros that literally sense motion by measuring the interference of laser beams traveling in opposite directions.
That is so cool.
And because there are no spinning wheels, there is zero bearing friction. They never spool down from a snapped vacuum belt. And since there are no physical gimbal rings to smash into, they have absolutely no mechanical limits.
So you could pull off all the extreme aerobatic flips you want, and the lasers will never tumble or throw a tantrum.
Not ever.
That is an unbelievable leap in technology. I highly encourage everyone listening to look up how laser gyros and AHRS are revolutionizing the cockpits of tomorrow. It's truly fascinating stuff. Keep studying the physics, keep chasing your wings, and the next time you look up at a massive cloudy sky, just remember.
With the right knowledge and a deep respect for the mechanics of your instruments, that blinding white cloud is no longer an obstacle.
It's just an opportunity to use your superpower. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.